There's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud, what women are actually talking about on Friday, the 22nd of December. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
I'm Jessie Stephens.
And on the final regular show of the year, I was about to say of 2022, which tells you a lot about how we're ending 2023.
Time flies.
On the final regular show of 2023, this is what we are talking about. One of the most beautiful and highly paid women in the world wants us to know she's just a struggling single mum. Why? And sorry everyone else, but people born in December are just better than you. Behold Jessie Stephens' excellent theory. And our best and worst of the whole year, from loss and despair to silliness and joy. Just like life. But first, Jessie Stephens.
In case you missed it, Cameron Diaz wants to normalise couples sleeping in different bedrooms. Actually, she doesn't mind separate houses. So relatable. In a recent podcast interview, Diaz shared that at one point in her life, she had her house, her partner had his house, and then they had a shared house.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
You guys, by the way, we should normalize separate bedrooms.
Thank you.
I have my house, you have yours. We have the family house in the middle. I will go and sleep in my room. You go sleep in your room. I'm fine. And we have the bedroom in the middle that we can convene in for,
This is going to be a bad headline.
Mostly I'm thinking that's two houses with lots of rooms. It sounds lovely, but potentially not realistic for most of us. But what she's talking about is called sleep divorce and is becoming increasingly popular. Holly, are you thinking of getting your own house with 3-4 bedrooms for the summer?
Oh my gosh. There's part of me that's like, wouldn't that be amazing? I remember Gwyneth did this. She and her husband didn't move in together for ages.
Yeah.
And she was all like, it keeps everything special. And I'm like, I bet it does. I bet it does. But no, generally speaking, as you know, I like to force people to sleep in the same bed.
You're very hardcore about it.
Why do people need to sleep in the same bed?
I'm joking about that. I've got lots of friends who sleep in different beds from their partners, very often because of snoring, actually. And then, of course, because of children, which we will discuss. But I know for me personally that sleeping in the same bed as my long-term partner is an absolute necessary part of intimacy. I think if we didn't, it would be even easier than it already is when you are with someone for a really long time and you've got busy lives and lots of responsibilities to just become housemates.
Okay, Can I ask, so you sleep in the same bed, but I don't know if this is just me. I mean, like, are you one of those weird couples that cuddles all night or gets up and has a chat at 3:30?
No, because the dog's in the middle of them.
Yeah, remember the dog's in the bed too?
What is it that's intimate about sleeping?
To me, it's just to signify that even though we're not cuddling all night, the fact that he's within arm's reach and so am I, there's just an intimacy to it that for me, I think I would find easy to slip out of if he slept next door. As I say, I know lots of people who do this and they say it saved their relationship. But for me, I think it would be too much effort and I would just spend all the time in my bed watching my shows, reading my books and not convening.
Well, yeah.
Does convening mean sex?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
One time that in many lives of couples that they do sleep separately is when they've got little kids. What did you do?
We did a bit of relaying in terms of when Luca went back to work, I would sleep in in our bedroom, so big bed.
In the marital bed?
In the marital bed with the baby crib next to me. Luca would sleep in a sort of daybed thing in the nursery. And so we did that separately because he has a lot of trouble getting back to sleep if he worked. And we've now swapped a few times. Like he would take over in the morning and then I would go and sleep in the nursery. And that has been so good for us in order to prioritize each other's sleep. Now we're back in the same bed.
Could you have seen how that could have gone on indefinitely?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what Holly always warned against.
Yeah. And even during pregnancy, I think, like if you're getting up a lot or if I stay up late, I like to read and then I have a light, I like a little torch on when I'm reading, that sort of thing. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think if you can have intimacy in other times of your day and make sure that you're chatting on the lounge at night or whatever.
Have sex in the kitchen sometimes.
Yeah, exactly right. How about you? Do you reckon you could do it?
Do I have sex in the kitchen?
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine having sex in my kitchen with my children and my dog and my, like, there's big windows and that, like, yeah, no.
Imagine your teenagers walking in. Lol.
I hate it here.
I hate it here.
I'm never eating anything cut up on that surface ever again.
Oh, that's so funny. What was the question?
Like, could you do it? Do you think
Have
there's
separate
anything wrong
bedrooms?
with separate bedrooms or?
I know what Holly means, but I also I haven't had my own bedroom for 28 years or something. And so sometimes I get cranky at my children and I'm just like, you get your own room. I don't have my own room. I can't make every decision I make about my sleep and my bedroom, what the sheets look like on the bed, to whether the curtains are closed, to the temperature, to all of it, is a shared decision and a compromise. And you just get to the point where you just get really tired of compromising. I like to look at my phone until I fall asleep with it on my face.
Yeah. It's really good for sleep hygiene.
Sometimes
Yeah, I was
I
going to say they call that sleep hygiene.
Yeah. See, I've got no problem with sleep hygiene, but whoever's the lightest sleeper tends to dominate.
Yeah.
Because I can sleep through anything, but he can't. So it's like I would sleep in a very, very different way. I mean, I love it when I travel for work and get to sleep on my own.
Yeah, hotel room.
But it's also very different sleeping apart if you're fighting versus sleeping apart if it's
a decided
not that.
luxury.
Yeah.
It's a luxury, I think. It
I
feels
agree.
very,
Rata thinks the world wants to be relatable. Rata, for those of you who don't know, is Radikowski. She is a model. She was in that film clip Blurred Lines. She has magnificent breasts, and we talk about her a lot on this show. Calls herself a feminist. No beef about that. She likes to
No beef, but a little tone.
not just
Call herself a feminist.
She doesn't just model. She also likes to speak on behalf of women. I'm digging myself into a hole here. How about I just tell you what this segment is about? The headline of a piece written by Chelsea McLaughlin for Mamamia this week is Rata thinks the world wants her to be relatable. She couldn't be more wrong. There was a profile piece in Vogue Australia this month. It was written about the model and it was an interview where she reflected on the anxiety of being a single parent. She said, I have moments where I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I can't believe I'm 32 and I'm a single income household with a child who I'm fully responsible for. This isn't the first time that Rata has tried to be relatable, if that is indeed what she is doing here. Earlier this year, she tried to make getting divorced in your 30s like
chic,
something that she was the poster child for. Here's what she had to say.
So it seems that a lot of ladies are getting divorced before they turn 30. And as someone who got married at 26, has been separated for a little over a year, 32, I have to tell you, I don't think there's anything better. If being in your 20s is the trenches, there is nothing better than being in your 30s, still being hot, maybe having a little bit of your own money, figuring out what you want to do with your life, everything, and having tried that married fantasy and realizing that it's maybe not all it's cracked up to be, and then you've got your whole life still ahead of you. For all of those people who are stressed or feeling stressed about that, about being divorced, like, it's good. Congratulations.
Yeah, look, you wouldn't want to get divorced in your 40s or your 50s when you are no longer hot. That would be terrible. I wonder if she talks about us on her podcast as much as we talk about her on ours. In the Mamamia piece, Chelsea writes, trying to widen her appeal in this way, Rata has also fallen into a common celebrity vulnerability trap where they're constantly sharing their hardships as a way to appear relatable. Of course, celebs can have hardships. Everyone can have hardships and everyone's are relative and also valid. But to many people, the life of Radikowski and practically every other very rich and very famous person is not relatable. And that's just the reality of being very rich and very famous. Jessie Stephens.
It has crystallized something for me, Chelsea's piece, which is that I think she has something valid to say. I really, really do. And I think that even in her book and that viral article on The Cut about buying herself back and the commodification of her image, I think she has something valid to say.
I think she's a bit confused about what that thing is, though.
Yes. And I think that it's when she starts to stray into territory that is attempting to be relatable that people start to roll their eyes. And I've tried to work out what it is that kind of riles me up, because she's sort of gone, I'm too sexy. That's not that relatable. She bought her image back for $175,000. Not relatable. She acknowledged that the reason in this Vogue Australia piece that she was recently interviewed for, she said she was able to publish a book because she has 30 million Instagram followers from, and this is a quote, basically sexualizing myself. Also not relatable.
But is she trying to be relatable, or is she just speaking her truth?
No, I think she is trying to be relatable, but I don't think that's her fault. I think it's the currency that we have, especially with her positioning on Instagram and TikTok. Remember Ellen DeGeneres did that stand-up show? I think it was called Relatable.
Yeah.
And it was all funny about how even if you are relatable and then you rise to fame, you begin living this life that is foreign to anyone who doesn't live in that echelon.
Yeah, so she was talking about how relatable she was and how she was going to call this show Relatable, and she was like, and then I said to my butler.
Yes, it was great.
Exactly. And I think that even I went through Rata's TikTok, and there are a bunch of things that's like the way to summarize the internet moment we're in is sort of the words "it me." You know how people will be like "it me" or whatever, and it's feeling like they're being seen, and that's something that Em has to do to go viral on the internet. But the problem is that she's so beautiful and so rich and so exceptional, which is why she's famous, that when she does that, it commits another crime, which is being inauthentic, which is the other thing we're demanding of her.
I just think we need to stop looking to celebrities for validation, right? There are people that we love to listen to their opinions and look at their lives because they are relatable. And then there are people who we like to look at their lives and listen to what they're saying because they clearly live on an entirely different planet to us. Case in point, this morning I saw that the internet was a bit upset about Kim Kardashian's Christmas decorations. And I was like, oh, I must go and see what Kim Kardashian's Christmas decorations
What
are like.
are they?
So Kim Kardashian has, I'd say a conservative estimate would be 25 Christmas trees lining the hallway of her home. Everything is white. The stockings are white. She has a guy come in every morning and play carols at a grand piano in the kids' reception room, which she did last year too. I remember this. This is obviously a big thing she likes to do. She's doing Elf on the Shelf. #relatable, except that Kim's Elf on the Shelf yesterday was to fill an entire sunken bathtub with chocolate and have the elves all diving in there to get their marshmallows. And let's be clear, Kim Kardashian did not set that up. She did not melt down 20,000 Hershey bars to fill that. That was some poor assistant's job, or more likely a highly paid Christmas stylist's job, which is great, right, if that's what you want to do. And everyone's mad because they're like, oh, Kim Kardashian's Christmas decorations just don't look like mine.
Cosy lives. Kim Kardashian's not worried about Cosy lives.
Exactly. And Kim Kardashian has 364 million followers on Instagram because her life is nothing like ours, right? We need to not look for validation in places where we're clearly not going to find it, and it just makes us feel shit about ourselves. If validation and relatability is what we're looking for, let's not be looking for it in the eyes of Rata. I don't actually think she was trying to be relatable. I think she said this comment about sometimes I wake up in the night and go, oh my God, I'm an adult responsible for a kid. I think what she was actually saying is something that a lot of people do think, which is, oh, I'm an adult. I'm responsible for things. That's a bit shocking. But no one wants to hear that from her. Because she is one of the teeny tiny percentage of humans who get to do a job that they clearly really like and enjoy and is very public and glamorous and comes with perks and is very highly compensated. She's not relatable. I don't want celebrities to be relatable. I want Mariah Carey to live in a palace made of pink icy poles and whipped cream, and I don't need to know that sometimes she has to shave her feet.
Oh, is that true?
Well, we all do, right? Sometimes have to shave the dead skin off our feet.
Oh, you mean like pumice stone?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I thought you meant because your feet were hairy.
All that. Either
And I
or.
was like,
I
oh,
don't
that's a
want to
bit-
know.
it's
I
not
want to
very
know
relatable.
that her life is different to mine.
You know what? I think it's her trying to be two things at once. I think that's the tension here because her image is very much geared to men, but the relatable side is something that you have to do if you want to connect with women and you want women to like you. So, for example, my life is a lot easier because I don't really care about what men think of me. I very much am here for the ladies. So I don't have to try.
You don't have to wake up and be like, oh, I need to post my bikini post
Yeah.
today to really
Yeah,
make
which-
the men following me.
Which pisses off some of the ladies. Like, it's not relatable. Like when Emrata's like, here's me naked or whatever, that's not relatable. So she has to say the other stuff and she ends up pleasing nobody. But the idea of relatable, I'm also going to come out defending her in that I don't think she was saying this to try and be relatable. I think once upon a time models could just be models, but now models have to have a podcast and they have to speak out on every issue of the day in the news cycle, and they've got to have political opinions and they've got to put forward their position on the war and they've got to do all of those things. And the contract of creating a parasocial relationship, the other burden of social media, if you are a personality, is that parasocial relationships are created by people thinking that they know you. They can't do that from just looking at static images or videos. They have to hear you talk. And that is actually her life. And the stuff she talks about is not relatable, but are the only women that are going to be allowed to tell their stories. Do they have to be relatable? I mean, someone living in a war zone or someone who's had cancer, that's not necessarily going to be relatable to a lot of people, but that's their story and that's how they feel.
I think it's very closely linked to the likability trap. It's this thing of like, we demand this of women. We get mad with them when they don't give it to us. If we're looking for relatability in Kim Kardashian or Rata or whatever, we're looking in the wrong place. There's no point in looking there and getting mad, you know? It's like going into Maya to buy a car. Like, that's not what they sell. It's not what they've got. You know, go to a car dealership and buy a car.
Friends, the very best people are born in December. If this is something you've noticed, which I'm sure you have, if you were born in December and you've long suspected you're superior to everyone else, then I have fabulous news on that front. You're right. According to a theory, which was developed by me, in unrelated news, it was my birthday yesterday and Holly's on Wednesday. Allow me to explain. People born in December are well-adjusted. They have a healthy degree of self-loathing, you may have noticed. The kind of self-loathing that comes from people yelling at them, you're not the center of the universe, no one cares about you, which does happen in December when it's your birthday. The kind of self-loathing that comes from no one turning up to your birthday party when you were 4.
Yeah.
When you were born in December, you were a newborn at a time when everyone was busy with other things. So your grandma probably didn't visit you. She was up the coast in the swimming pool with all your cousins that were born in July. Speaking of, December babies know that their parents ever so slightly resented them and maybe still do. Why? Because you ruined their season. You might have ruined Christmas. You might have ruined New Year's. And it wasn't a great year that year.
And in Australia, your mother still has residual resentment that she was so heavily pregnant in the heat.
When it was hot.
Yeah.
And it was really hot. She couldn't go for a swim for a while.
I speak of something I know well.
Yes.
Because I have a December baby.
As a December baby, you don't get the mandatory fuss that other kids get. Your parents never made 30 cupcakes for the class. And when you bring your birthday up at home, someone reminds you how stressful it is this time of year to get a present and have you seen the Westfield car park. You're more community-minded because you accept that at the end of the year, no one has any money, no one has any time, and no one has any shits to give. You are resilient because you probably had to wake up and discover your parents hadn't bought your present yet. Not like the people born in June that say ridiculous things like, it's my birthday week or it's my birthday month, and they organise weekends away. You ever known a December baby to organise a weekend away? Not possible. You've learnt that's not possible. There's no main character energy. We all are pessimists with our December birthdays because we spend 11 months of the year with nothing. No presents, no joy, no celebration, no cards.
That's true.
It's all crammed in a 31-day period which is way too much for a month to live up to.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think maybe our friends and family will make a fuss. Maybe they will. And then inevitably this line comes out of people's mouths. Why don't we do a joint present?
I literally didn't even text you yesterday.
No, fuck my birthday.
Because I was like, I've got a present for you, but I'll just hang on to it for Christmas.
You'll see me then.
Yeah.
Great. So it'll be like that.
I'll give it to you at Christmas.
And so you end up getting a combined present. Does Luca, who's born in September, has he ever had a combined present? No. I spend lots of money and thought on his September present. Luckily, this all contributes to you being an all-round better person than those born at any time during the year. Holly, would you agree?
You know, I am very, very here for this theory of yours, Jessie Stephens, for obvious reasons. I think I have spent a lot of my life yelling about this in the way that's another thing December babies do is that we complain.
Correct. We like to bring the vibe down a little bit.
So everyone in my life knows that if they did get me a joint present, there would be a lot of trouble to be had.
Yeah.
So no joint presents. Thank you very much. When I was little, I was thinking about this the other day. You know how Mia says that in the 70s, parents just didn't give a shit. They were just barely getting through, sort of sober.
Benign neglect, we call it. Us Gen
And
Xers.
now we are such helicopters. Both myself and my brother are December babies. And there was a brief period in our childhood where we'd clearly whinged enough that it wasn't fair that we had to wait 11 months, that my grandma tried to establish something called an unbirthday, which was in June.
I've heard of people try and do this.
I remember 1 year it happened, my unbirthday in June, I got a Holly Hobby doll. I was so excited. And then it never happened again. Because my parents were clearly like, this is bullshit. She needs to build resilience and realize she's not special enough to get two birthdays like the Queen. So, indeed. However, I have tried, because you also know, Jessie, that I am a radiator and not a drain. So I've tried to put a positive spin on my December 20th birthday by saying it just makes the festive season even better.
No.
Because the celebrations go for longer.
No,
but it's bullshit.
It's bullshit. It's such bullshit. Mia, you have a baby, a December baby, born mid-December.
Yeah.
Does she hate you?
She was due on your birthday, funnily enough, before I met you, and she was born about a week early. I want to give a shout out to all the mothers of December babies because, you know, if you think you've got problems being a baby, try making, like, the pressure of having to be the one that makes the festive, even if we fail, the fact that we are already so stressed trying to organise Christmas and make it magic, we also have to overcompensate for all the reasons that you just said that we are aware of, while cursing ourselves for having sex in, I think it was March. I posted something about this on Instagram and Annabelle Crabb said, I think she's got 2 December babies, this is our fault for just getting way too aroused by International Women's Day because that's in March.
So true. It's an exciting time of year.
It's a very exciting time of year.
My poor mum, because I look back at it now and I'm like, so she was organising Christmas Magical Tree. She's also a teacher, so they only break up like this week sometime. And it was always like coinciding with my birthday that her school would break up. Every time she went to the shopping centre, I'd be like, well, I want to come because I want to yell at you about things I want. She's trying to get presents for everyone. And then I would wake up on the 21st, and this has always been a joke in our family, that like mum was always real shitty because she was just real busy and probably hadn't been sleeping a lot. And I'd be like, where's my present? And she'd be like, look at you, it's all about you. And it's like, yeah, it is meant to be about me for one day.
I love your mum.
And it's
so
not
much.
an accident that my little Luna, July 3. July 2. Shit. July 2. I'm not good with numbers.
There's too many numbers.
But I know it's in the middle of the year somewhere, and I'm going to say I planned it.
See, I didn't even know when her birthday was. I've got no idea even what month she was born in. I'm very not good with numbers and dates.
No, I just know that there will be a festival of Luna.
Yeah.
If you want to make Out Loud part of your routine 5 days a week, we release segments on Tuesdays and Thursdays just for Mamamia subscribers. To get full access, follow the link in the show notes, and a big thank you to all our current subscribers.
We're doing our best and worst of the year today, and we're doing it a little bit differently. Usually we all go around and we do our worst and our best. Mia is very strict about best being second so that we leave on a happy note. And with that in mind, we're all going to do our worst. There is a lot of overlap in our bests and our worsts this year. So we're all going to do our worst and then we're all going to do our bests so that we definitely leave with a massive dose of positivity that even Jessie Stephens will have to like. But first, there's no getting around it. The end of this year is pretty awful. So I'm going to talk about my worst of the year, and I'm sure it's not only mine. It is that the world is clearly ending this year in a bad place, There's no way around it. The scale of loss and suffering in the conflict in Israel and Gaza is hard to comprehend. And the world's response to it is seeing us in a hyper polarized place. And I know it's become really trite almost to say that polarization is affecting us in ways that it hasn't before, because I don't know if that's actually true. I mean, the world has always been polarized, but it's so visible now. And it also feels like for almost a decade, public debate is operating in these silos of contested truths. I'll say, these are my facts, and you'll come back with your facts, and we can't agree. And we're in these sort of polarized silos. But it certainly feels like right now that has never been truer. And on Out Loud, we have been extremely cautious in wanting to add to all of that. And I know that not everybody has been happy about the fact that we've done that. But to me, the worst of this year is all the hate that we're directing at each other in public discourse. It feels to me like this year is ending in a soup of it, and it's getting worse and not better. Obviously, the response to the Gaza conflict is a very stark illustration of it. It's cast us into these opposing groups, and we're seemingly unable to empathize with each other at all for fear of being seen to be an apologist or uncaring. And personally, I feel like all that online vitriol is a distraction, because the war isn't on Instagram. It's really not. It is in Gaza and in Israel, where mothers have empty arms and an escalating catastrophe is devastating lives every day. And to me, at least, and this is my opinion, the efforts should be pointed at peace and not about semantics of who is saying what and saying it wrongly. And it just feels to me like the worst of this year is our increasing inability to see things from each other's point of view, whether it is here in Australia with issues like Indigenous recognition, or on a global scale where everyone's really dug in to their silos. Like in America, they can't get any laws passed because bipartisanship just doesn't exist. The UN can't draft a resolution because there's so much argument about what the words even mean. On a smaller level here, we're struggling to discuss things, knowing that every word we say will inflame things rather than heal things. And it keeps me up at night. And I don't want to make that sound like this is a bigger problem than what's actually happening to human beings, because it's not. But it just feels like the world is getting worse because of our inability to talk to each other. And that is definitely feels like my worst this year.
Yeah, I agree. And that's my worst too. I think seeing people attack each other on Instagram, particularly women, it's interesting how that happens. It becomes about blaming other women. And I agree that it's a distraction. And I also think that grief, which I think is what most of us are going through right now, seeing a lot of the images that have come out, manifests itself in very different ways to different people. So initially with October 7, that was such a moment of grief. And the thing about grief as well is that it can be really slow. And I think a lot of people were trying to catch their breath and comprehend the scale of the tragedy that happened on October 7th. And already there were demonstrations and comments and things that happen, and they're people that you like and you respect, and then you see their reaction to that and you think, that doesn't seem like there's a lot of humanity in that response. And then, of course, and I think a lot of people knew this, and that explains why that response happened, was Israel's response. And to see that, the scale of the loss, and I was trying to work out why I have found this so difficult to articulate. And it's because it sounds so obvious to say, but I feel like with all the noise, people aren't saying it. There is nothing more precious than a human life, than whether you are Israeli or you are Palestinian. I do not care. There is nothing more precious than that. And it is the hopes and the dreams and an entire world to someone. And when you see an image of a child that has been killed. If you have humanity, that's going to destroy you. And I worry about how desensitized we are going to become with all of these images coming out. And I just feel like I've been in grief over what's happening. And I think a lot of people feel really hopeless. This is not about me and how I feel about it. But to give people context as well, I mean, I don't know about you two, but I've had people in my DMs sending me images of, babies that have been killed, wishing awful things on my child because I haven't echoed to them what they want me to say. And what I want to say to our listeners is that the reason we might have not approached this in the way that you wanted us to is because we do not want to compound grief right now. There are people listening and there are people who follow us on Instagram who lost people on October 7. There are people who are losing family in Palestine. Anything that we say is going to hurt them more at a time when they are in deep, deep, deep pain.
I don't even know where to start, and so I'm not going to say much. I echo everything that you both said. We think about do no harm on this show, and that sounds very lofty. We're not doctors, we're not Medicine Sans Frontières, but we take our platform very, very seriously, and we don't ever want to, if we don't feel like we can add anything or if we think we're going to cause further distress, we don't. I just want to overlay also the feeling of fear, speaking as a Jewish woman in the Jewish community, the feeling of fear, the shock at the anti-Semitism that we thought belonged to another period in history and we never thought that we would see in our streets and in our phones from people that we thought were our friends or our allies or people who we shared values with. Our hearts all go out to everybody who is suffering in Gaza, in Israel, and in every country around the world who has connections to those countries or who has been distressed by what they've seen. Because you're right, Jessie, how could you see those images or read those stories or those descriptions of what happened on October the 7th and since and not be affected? And we're just praying for peace. We're praying for the end of suffering and sending our love to everybody who is also feeling distressed.
Changing gears, and I know that sometimes that can feel clunky, and it's just what we do on this show, and we want to leave everybody with light after the end of what is undoubtedly a very, very heavy year in lots of ways. And my light this year, right, comes from a very simple pleasure that I did not know I had. And Mia's going to roll her eyes. It's my garden.
I was about to go gardening, but I thought, don't tease her. She's going to be honest here. Let's celebrate joy wherever we can find it, even in the dirt.
The garden and the dirt is actually a symbol for something else, right? I have never had a hobby. I don't think I have ever had a hobby in my life, right? My life is like many of us, work, family, friends. Maybe my hobby was reading books. People used to say, what are your hobbies? Or remember in the old days on your CV, it used to say hobbies.
Mine is working.
Reading. Going to the beach.
Drinking with my friends. Like those were my hobbies. Eating food. That was it. The joy I've found and the relief from stress I've found and the contentment and awe and wonder and grace and all those really woo-woo words that I've found in my garden this year has surprised the hell out of me. And it gives me an immense pleasure that I didn't know I needed to do something that is not linked to productivity. It is not advancing my life. I mean, sure, I very occasionally get to eat something I grow, but like that's literally not why you're doing it. Otherwise you would starve because it takes a really long time to grow a cucumber. But it's like this very heart-filling thing to see something you've planted turn into something, I don't know. It's something about like doing something just for the sheer pleasure of it, something about being outside. I'm just genuinely going to say that discovering that I like that has been a surprise to me this year and brought me immense joy, and it is my best.
It's weirdly deeply human. I get the same with plants. I'm like, I bought you when you were little and now you're big, and that blows my mind.
It's
all
wild.
I did was water you. Like, it's really exciting. My best, I think, is obvious, and I've spoken a lot about the joy of new motherhood and how much I've loved it. I have felt the most myself and felt like I've had a real burst of confidence. And with my friends who have recently had babies too, I think that when you give birth, however you birth, however your pregnancy went, like it is such an enormous thing that once that baby comes, it might not come immediately, but I think it does come in the months afterwards where you go, I can do anything. I cannot believe what I just did. Wow, I can do anything. And that's just a really exciting energy to have. And I felt for a while like the lights had turned off a bit and I was struggling to feel things and see the joy in things. And to feel like in the second half of this year it's all come back on and then the noise has come back up has just been amazing. And I've not felt like I've been able to hack that before, like I've been able to get out of it when I've been in a real funk. But I'm just trying
By
to…
funk, do you mean depression?
Yeah. I wish I knew what the secret was to getting out of it.
You've got to have a baby every time.
I'm going to be one of those people who gets addicted to having babies, and I'm going to have 14 and it's just like it's honestly going to take its toll. I just think that, it was kind of a circuit breaker maybe. It's been amazing.
Do you think that any of it is – one of the things I loved most about having a baby was not being the center of the universe anymore?
Yeah.
Like it takes you out of yourself a little –
like a little relief.
Yeah, I felt relief at that because I was so in my head. I was so main character. When you have a baby – it becomes outside of you.
I was just saying to Luca last night, so my grandmother lived with me till I was about 14. Helping my nan was one of my greatest memories of childhood. I loved looking after her. So helping her get dressed and like just really little things. And there's something I love about caring for something that isn't me.
Yes.
And I think
like what you just said about the plant.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like I really missed that. Like, because I just think you get an enormous
you had that with a
amount
dog.
Yes, exactly. Or, family member who is sick and finding ways that you can be of use is like incredibly self-esteem giving. You feel enormously connected to something. And that's, it's like my relationship with Luna feels like quite porous. Like I don't know where I am and where she begins. And it's like this, I don't know. I think that has, it's obvious, everyone says it, but it gives you perspective as well on everything. How about you, Mia? What's your best?
I was thinking about the word Schadenfreude or Schadenfreude or however you say it. It's that word, that German word that describes feeling good at someone else's misfortune or failure and the reflected buzz you get out of that.
Yeah.
And it usually means someone that you don't like doing badly or, someone doing badly and making you feel less insecure about something. I want to find the word for the joy you get from watching other people be happy that you love because that's been my year. I've done work and stuff, but my year has been the most joyous of my life probably in watching other people's joy that I love. So you and Luca getting married, obviously Luna being born, not just my feelings about Luna, obviously, which has been extraordinary and just like the biggest love affair that I didn't even dream would be this enormous and joyful, but also watching the joy that you've both had, watching my son become a father, watching my beloved friend become a mother and be so happy, watching Holly be happy in her garden.
She's trying.
I know.
It's such a testament to me as friendship that she's
I love
trying.
It. I'm there for it. I'm there for it. Because I get it. And I'm actually, with all my piss taking of you in your garden, I'm envious because I've heard that people who get into gardening, it's like a moving meditation and they love it. And I don't have a hobby. So I would love that. Watching my daughter fall in love has been amazing in her first serious relationship and just watching her be loved. And I felt that same way when you and Luca first met and the early years of your relationship and still now, like the reflected joy you get from watching your kids be loved has just been amazing. So that's been my best. It's like passive joy or adjacent joy or I don't even know what it's called.
No, I know what you mean.
I'm sure there is a word for it and I'm sure Outlouders will tell us what it is. But that's been, definitely the best of my year.
Mia, that was actually beautiful. We want to know from you, Outlouders. We know 2023, it's been a tricky year in lots of ways, but we're sure there's also been some pockets of joy. Share your best and worst with us. Please do. Jump into the Facebook group. As always, we will be asking Let's all share them and finish the year with as many glimmers as we can manage.
And out louders, please start thinking about your word of the year because it's coming up.
Oh,
and
yes,
you better believe that we have recorded our word of the year episode.
Yeah.
It is coming on the 1st. So get your year sorted. You can have chats in the Mamamia Out Louders Facebook group to help find your word. We have a recommendation. And look, we've got some really exciting stuff coming up over the summer. So the best recommendations we could possibly give you are our TV and movies like and there's a bunch of stuff we haven't been able to recommend because we've just been really busy. I was off for a while and all I did was watch TV and movies. And we have sat down and done an episode where we tell you everything that you've got to watch, the absolute best of 2023. And that comes out on the 29th of December, so next week. Look, if you're looking for a last minute Christmas gift.
For yourself.
Well, yeah,
Or for
exactly
someone else.
right. Exactly right. May we suggest a subscriber membership to Mamamia? What you're going to get is over January, we have brand new subscription episodes dropping every Tuesday and Thursday. So you're going to get new Mamamia Out Loud twice a week. Some really juicy stuff coming up. Lots of arguments. Just look, we've been recording them for the last month. Some are incredibly unhinged and we just hope you enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
So it is such a good gift for someone in your life or for yourself. A yearly subscription is $69. Doesn't require you to leave your house or your couch. Maybe you've definitely forgotten. Again, you don't want to go and park somewhere the car parks are full. It is incredibly stressful.
Do you remember when you were young, the word 69, like the number 69 used to just make you giggle?
Yeah.
And if anything was $69, that would just be like hilarious.
Is that why we've chosen 69?
Probably.
So, yeah.
Probably.
There is a link to that in our show notes.
We're going to take a break over Summer Out Louders, but don't worry because as Jessie said, we've got so much content coming your way. So keep an eye on the feed and the subscriber feed, of course. We want to thank you from the bottom of our cold, dead hearts. They're not cold dead. They're just a bit shriveled and tired.
A little bit
at the end of
sleepy.
this year. But we want to thank you so much for being with us throughout this year. We want to thank you for listening to us every week. We are, as you know, Australia's #1 news and pop culture show, and we can't wait to be back with you next year. This episode was produced as ever by our amazing team who have also worked so hard all year to whip us into shape.
We love you.
Get all of these shows out. That's our wonderful producer, Emeline Gazilas. The assistant producer is Tahli Blackman, and audio production, as always, by the glorious Leah Porges. We'll see you later on.
Bye.
Bye.